Hello, everybody, and welcome to the newly revamped podcast, now known as Darcy's Corner. Hence why I'm not really in the corner, I'm more just slanted off to the side, but the thought still counts. Here we'll be talking about a lot of different topics around disability. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the... What's the show called again?
Darcy's Corner.
What do you mean, Darcy's Corner?
Guys, we have rebranded.
What? No, think of the algorithm.
Of our 3 viewers.
Well, how are those 3 viewers meant to know?
There will be lots of announcements on social media.
Welcome to, as Phoebe just said, Darcy's Corner.
Yay!
Yeah, it's all about me. Today we will be, or not just today, for the rest of the podcast series, however many episodes we do, we will be talking about different topics revolving around disability. And there may or may not, for those fans of the original podcast, there may be some returning guests from previous episodes to do updates.
We're moving away from the roller coaster that was last season's themes and topics.
Yes. Yes, we are. So, today, we will be talking about disability representation.
In the media.
Yes,
Yay!
The media. We love the media.
I study the media at uni.
So, the big thing I wanted to mention and what really sparked this idea as a point of conversation was there was this article I read. I wasn't able to find it, but I do remember reading it about the disability representation in movies and specifically in the Barbie movie. And what that was about was there were, I believe, 2 Barbies that were, one was in a wheelchair and one was, there was something else. I don't remember exactly, but I think there might have been 2 in wheelchairs. But what a lot of people got upset about was that there were you could see them and there were shots of them, but they had no speaking lines. And a lot of people, I don't know the percentage of actual people in the disabled community who said this, or whether it was people trying to white knight. A lot of people were upset going, why didn't you give them lines, whatever. And I see where they're coming from, but as a disabled person myself who has seen lots of other forms of disability representation in media, I do like the sort of fade into the background, well, not fade into the background, but the just another Barbie. And I know I've said in the past my belief of disability people shouldn't be like, oh, we're just like everyone else, because we're not. But what I mean when it comes to representation is, I don't want a shot of the disability Barbie and the Barbie goes, I'm wheelchair Barbie, and I've struggled to do this, but I've made it here, and whatever, or whatever context it would be used in the film, because I know in the film's context my example wouldn't work. But what I mean is that just having it there and not like a big deal that it's there is the best form of representation, because the worst thing we want is the sort of inspiration corn sort of shut up. I've been mandated not to say the actual term, so I'm using the TikTok term. You know, I'm hip with the kids.
Corn.
You're done.
Yeah.
So anyway, lost my train of thought. I like the sort of, among everyone else in the background, not in the background, but not a big bit of attention put on the fact that it's a wheelchair, that it is a wheelchair Barbie, or just any wheelchair character in the media.
Yeah, I think it's good. Like, I understand where you're coming from in that if you took a selection of, say, there's 100 Barbies in this shot, and you took a selection of 100 people, it's likely that, you know, someone in there would have a disability, whether that's visible or invisible. Like, I think, from my perspective, there could be better representation, but at the moment, like, the alternative is worse than what Barbie did. And also, Barbie was a movie about, like, feminism and misogyny, like, and I think a big issue, particularly with big companies, like production companies making movies and TV shows, is they try and take on too much, like, too much to battle. And they make the movie, you know, they could include, like, things about race, you know, gender, sexuality, disability, like, feminism, and it becomes, like, too much, and they get skimmed over and not addressed correctly.
Yeah.
Whereas in Barbie, like, there was a wheelchair Barbie, and it's great for people who are in wheelchairs to see themselves on the screen. This is just coming from my perspective as a media student studying film and TV. And it's really good for these viewers to see themselves on the screen, and not in a way where it's like tokenism and we've ticked a box, you know, like a character in a wheelchair gets a line. It was just more like people in wheelchairs are a normal part of society.
Yeah.
Is that what you were thinking on the same page?
Yes, that's that.
Yeah, because I was just talking about it with someone at uni the other day, actually, and they were like, oh, like, Barbie didn't... It was similar to what this article was saying, actually. And I just think that, of course, there are better ways to represent people in a wheelchair than just a background character, but in this film, it doesn't quite make sense because it's about feminism and misogyny.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. I'm not saying for every film future that it shouldn't be disability focused or shouldn't have a disability focused character. I'm saying, like Phoebe's saying, in the context of the film and what the film's message was, having a side plot or a side little thing about, you know, wheelchair Barbie struggles, or, you know, just even having her say, or them, I don't actually know, but, like, what the actor person's pronouns are.
Yeah.
But it's not that for every form of media I want, don't bring attention to disability. For the context of films like Barbie and other films that have a specific message, I feel adding another thing. I feel like if this was made a big deal in Barbie and they went ahead and made it a big deal, it would have distracted from the actual plot of Barbie.
Yeah, and I think that's where people fall into tokenism and just, like, ticking the box of, oh, we have a character with a disability who says a line. Like, it's not, like, relevant to the plot and the storyline, and they're just trying to force it in. That's my thoughts. Like, it doesn't make sense in Barbie to just have this random side plot about this character's struggles and things. So then if you did have that, it's just tokenism, because it's not adding to the story, it's not central to the story, it's not relevant.
Yeah. One thing I also wanted to talk about in regards to, just on the topic of representation, I was told by a friend of mine that the new Doctor Who had a part-time wheelchair user, which is great. I, a part-time wheelchair user, was amazed to have that representation. I don't watch Doctor Who, but I still think it's amazing. But there was a caveat. So Davros was a character from the original 60s Doctor who was in a wheelchair, and he was like the main bad guy. Around the same time that they introduced this part-time wheelchair user who was a good guy, they reintroduced Davros, but they decided not to make him wheelchair-bound because they didn't want to portray someone with a disability as a bad person. No, what? Are you serious? Are you serious? Like, oh, no, our main villain is in a wheelchair. If we release this, people will think we think wheelchair people are bad.
I think it's another thing if, like, all of the bad people are just in wheelchairs and no one else is, then yeah, that's sending that message. Like, where did they get this feedback from that that's what people were taking it as?
This wasn't the audience going, we're not comfortable with Davros being in a wheelchair. This was the executives going, we don't know how this will look.
I'd just be curious to see if they discussed it with any wheelchair users.
Well, as I said, they've got a part-time wheelchair user as a part of the main cast now, so they would have spoken to them.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't particularly agree with that.
So on that topic of, like, people misunderstanding or people's different opinions about the representation of people with disabilities in the media, what are some representations that you really think are positive and not in a tokenistic way?
I can't think of too many physically disabled representations, but I have a couple, like, autistic representation, but those are the only ones that are coming off the top of my head. First is Abed Nadir, played by Daniel Pudi in Community, and the actor is an autistic, but Dan Harmon, the creator or the co-creator?
Hang on, I'll look it up.
Okay, she's looking it up.
Dan.
Anyway, Dan Harmon, he was involved in creating Community. He is on the spectrum, and he had a lot of input into Abed's character. Second one is Quinny, from Heartbreak High, played by the Queen, Chloe Hayden, who is just...
It's just created by Dan Harmon, no one else.
Yeah, alright. Please watch Heartbreak High. Follow Chloe's socials. Chloe Hayden is amazing. For all she's done for the autism community and everything else. Now, onto a controversial one. Now, again, I am saying this as a disabled person.
Just because Darcy has an opinion doesn't mean that you need to agree with it.
I think that the best representation in the media of cerebral palsy and just being in a wheelchair in general is Timmy and Jimmy from South Park. Now...
Why? Why do you think that? Just curious. I've never watched South Park, so... I'm trying to think of how I can explain it without... Because there's a lot of examples, but I'd have to not be able to... I guess it goes back to the sort of thing I was saying about, like, they're just like everyone else. Like Jimmy's cerebral palsy is an aspect of his character, but aside from the, like, occasional episode... So, usually, when it's a center episode for Jimmy and Timmy, it is related to their disabilities, but again, within the context of the show that I can't get into, because else I'll get in trouble from the big boss. Ignore that. I'll throw this phone away. To avoid getting in trouble from the big boss, I can't give full context, but just know that they are treated with respect.
or as much respect as a South Park character can be treated.
So they're not, like, you know how you say you don't want people with disabilities to try and be like everyone else and say they don't have, like, and hide their disability. So their disability isn't glossed over and it isn't hidden, but they're still treated the same as everyone else.
Yes.
That is treated in South Park, whether that is
Negative.
appropriate or not.
Yeah. And as well, it's the thing of you can have a disabled character and this is what I'm getting at with the whole getting in the background thing. You can have a disabled character and acknowledge that they are disabled, but don't make them solely disabled, I guess is what I'm saying. Like, you can use the disability for, I don't know, like South Park uses it for comedy, which is hilarious. As a person with cerebral palsy, it is hilarious. But you can use it for comedy and you can use it for plot lines, and that's totally fine. But there are episodes with Jimmy specifically that have no relation to his disability. Yes, it is used frequently, but there are points where I'm trying, and again, I know I'm not sounding the best, but I'm trying to, dance around the topic because I can't mention South Park in detail here.
Well, I think a lot of issues that people with disabilities have that I've encountered is either they will try and completely, remove disability as part of their identity. But then there's other people who I've interacted with where their disability is their entire identity. Like, they'll introduce themselves as their name and I have this, this, and this, which is fine, but there's also so many other defining parts of a person. And what you're saying, I think, is that, it's a part of Jimmy and Timmy, but it's not their only characteristic.
So it's a pendulum, right? So on one end, it's I'm like everyone else, the only disability is a negative attitude, and on the other end is I'm disabled and that's all I am. And it's about finding that bit in the middle.
Both ends are bad.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I thought of a good representation that I know in the media is Naz Campanella, who is the...
You tried.
Alright, well, okay. Naz Campanella, is that better? She is a reporter on ABC News and she handles the disability news as well as other things. So she lost her vision when she was 6 months old, I read. And so they have a person with a disability reporting on disability news, which I think is important to hear it from someone who it could affect. But also she has opportunities to do other things. That's not all she does. So she isn't pigeonholed into that role. She reports on lots of different things. So I thought that was a good representation that I've seen just without, looking.
Yes.
Okay, well, that was a long episode. 23 minutes.
Nice.
Woohoo! I didn't introduce myself in the beginning, but I'm Phoebe. Anyway, thank you so much, and we'll see you next episode for our topic about... Do you remember?
I think it's about part-time wheelchair users.
Well, I wasn't sure.
I think it might be about part-time wheelchair users.
Yay! That will be coming out 3 weeks after this one.
Yay.
Woohoo! Alright, thank you. Bye!
Bye. Hope you enjoyed that episode, and please remember to follow this YouTube channel and all of our social medias listed in the description.